We got the CDG in the house, jumped in.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, Matt?
What's going on, man? So glad you're able to jump in with us.
Oh, of course, man. I wouldn't miss it. Thank you so much.
Oh, for sure. So we got some people that are jumping in. We have about 11, usually anywhere between 15 to 20-ish plus kind of jump in. So we'll go through and just kind of do some kind of big wins. We're all business owners, entrepreneurs. What I want to do first, since it's breaking into the 7 o'clock mark, I'm going to break this open with some prayer, and then I want us to start sharing some big wins that we've had. Ooh, sorry, that was probably a spam call anyway. And then I want us to share just some big wins that we've had over the last week and any insight that we've had from what we talked about last time regarding God being, the best marketer ever and how maybe you've applied some of those things if you've used any of the tools. So we'll jump into with some prayer and then we'll go ahead and get started with the convo. All right. So, Lord, thank you so much for allowing us to come together and just talk about how we can be good stewards of the ideas and the tools and the resources that you've put in our hands, and that we just be good and diligent and be, again, good stewards with those resources. Because with those resources, we can expand the kingdom and we can continue to share the gospel of of our Lord Jesus Christ with those resources, and by being examples of leaders in the economy, in our local economy, and again, just being able to share the gospel by being a light and by using our resources to advance the kingdom. So thank you so much, Lord. I pray that we have insight. I pray, you continue to give Chris David insight and words for us, that we have open hearts and open ears, and also give me just eloquence of speech as well, Lord, to just have insight and share it with the others. And also pray for those that are able to jump in. And I pray for those that aren't able to. I pray if they are stuck in traffic, give them clear lanes and green lights to get home. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Sweet.
Amen.
All right. So what I want to do is, because we have a few people on, is I want to start with some wins. Any wins that we've had in our businesses over the last week. I want to start with some shares of big wins. Or any win, small, big. It doesn't have to be a giant win where you landed a big contract, but something that where it was impactful for you and your business where you are.
Sure, I'll go first. One of the things that God was showing me this week and last week is that He's a God of order.
Mhm.
So just kind of organizing the little things at home, decluttering, really decluttered my mind to hear more of what He wanted me to change. So it's a little win, but it's a big change.
Oh, for sure. That's how it
Mhm.
starts, right? Starts with the little victories, when the big battles. Anyone else want to
I'm
share?
the yeah, I'm the I guess the loan operations part of the operation part of our business. So we typically this time of year is a slow kind of for everybody, but we already surpassed our previous month
Really?
in our photography business, and we haven't hit the 15th yet. So we already beat out what we did last month. So we're just pushing forward
Wow,
now.
look at all that dandruff that was in my hair.
Um,
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Like, holy fuck. Like, I knew I had some dandruff. I didn't think I had that.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Tony. Anyone else have some wins that they want to share with the group?
I can start. You said something last week about Jesus. Knew starting a business would be hard, so he had the 12 disciples.
That's
So I
right.
kind of started just talking to a few people, trying to get them on board with a couple of the things I'm trying to get accomplished. So that's a huge win for me, just having those conversations.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. And who was that? Because I don't think you had. Let me see. Was that Roger?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
I'm driving right now in traffic, so I don't want to text and drive. So
Yeah,
I'll put
definitely.
them on.
Okay, cool. No, well, thanks so much for sharing that. Appreciate it. Anyone else want to share some of that insight? Okay, well, I will share something if that's cool with y'all. So on a it what is rewarding sometimes often is being able to help somebody, of course, because we all are helping somebody, right? Like I think it was, and someone on this call, I think it may have been Maria, who reached out to me to help me with my t-shirts, right? And so, like Tony is helping people with the loan processing side of his business, and Maria was helping her, just within her household, just be organized. Then there's sometimes that we help people who are in just a deeper need of help. And so I'm working with a client right now who has cancer. He has stomach cancer. And so he has cancer in the part of his stomach right where it meets the intestines. And so because the cancer is growing in that area, it's not allowing food to pass through. So it's hindering his body's ability to take in any nutrition whatsoever. So it is just, oh my gosh, really intense. And so because of that, he called me up, and I met him through a friend, and he called me over and he was like, hey, I need you to help me get this leased out. I need you to help me get my business sold. So these are two kind of separate things. But I met him at his home. I mean, prayed over him, just prayed over what we're doing, and with getting his business sold, his salon business, and also getting his building leased out. And so those are just some of the opportunities where it's just there's a need to help, because that's what you're there for, is to service a need. But then also, like, the reason why they have that need is what I'm there to help. And so it's just realizing sometimes we're there for more than just, or for me, it's more than just selling a house. And it always is that, because people buy homes for their family to grow. But sometimes the need is just a little bit more extreme than most scenarios. And so I'm just honored to help in that capacity. And so, with that being said, if anybody wants to buy a salon business in Splendora, definitely let me know. Or if you need a place of business in Splendora and you need to rent a building, definitely let me know. But I wanted to share that story because it was impactful for me, just being honored to help somebody when they're in that type of health situation is it almost makes you want to put your best, bring out all your guns for, helping somebody like that. So just wanted to share that. Okay. All right. So let's jump in. I want to give Chris David a chance to just really share as much as possible, and also through him sharing his story and through some of the questions that I'm asking him, just as many opportunities for Q&A towards the end as possible. So this is actually a really good time. And so what I wanted to do is just give a quick introduction for Chris David. So I've known him for a really long time. We've met at Grace. He's a member of Grace. He's been attending there for a really long time. I've met him while he was actually part of the media division with the Houston Astros. And he helped them through what their first two World Series was that? Yeah. So he helped them, put that big marketing campaign behind, those World Series championships. And that was pretty awesome. And then so during that time, he was behind the scenes. His baby was, growing this conference. And then now he's launched major level, right? Did I get that right? And so just really excited about everything he's done. He's shown me some of the work that he's done for some of his clients, and it is amazing. It is amazing, some of the work that he's done. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Chris David to, give more insight into what he's done, his big why, and what his company's all about, and what motivates him to keep waking up in the morning for his business.
No, man, I was just going to tell you, I appreciate that kind intro, and thank you all for having me. This is, I think anytime you can get entrepreneurs or folks who have the entrepreneurial spirit together, it's special because, you feed off of each other and you learn so much. There's obviously there's courses on entrepreneurship, but, there's nothing like learning from the street, learning from each other. So yeah, anytime you see me or, anyone wants to talk business or invite to have coffee, I'm always open for it. There's so much you can learn as a business owner from other business owners, and and a lot of them just aren't really willing to share. Believe it or not, a lot of successful ones. So if you ever get someone that can share some of their tips and tricks, for sure take advantage of that, especially if if they've seen success. But and yeah, man, thank you so much. I mean, I think what you're doing is really cool, man. When you first talked about it, I just was like, that's amazing to mix, business and entrepreneurship with, faith and belief. And you definitely have to have it as a business owner. You'll probably get gray hair really quick, and you'll probably get closer to Jesus real fast.
Yeah, mine's already
You know,
coming through. I think mine's
yeah,
the kids.
yeah, that'll do it too. But yeah, just a little bit about my journey. Man, well, I'll just start with this. I've worked in sports and entertainment for about 20 years. And you know, when you're in sports and entertainment, it feels like 40 years. Just because it's so many late nights, so many weekends, and it never really turns off. You know, there's always something happening on the news if you're into sports. It's not just like an off season and a season. It's basically all season. Um, so I do feel like I've been in the game for quite a bit, and I was very fortunate enough to do that. I started when I first, I guess, got out of college and was trying to figure out, you know, exactly what I wanted to do. I had a friend offer me a part time job just doing design, and through that relationship, we had a woman reach out that became the marketing director for the Houston Dynamo, which is the Houston soccer team here. And she just flat out offered me a job. I was very fortunate and lucky at that time. I didn't even know sports needed design and creatives. To be honest, it wasn't like a curriculum in college or anything like that. But it worked out perfect because that's where my background is anyway. And I stayed there for about 2 years, and I was fortunate enough to be with them during a logo change and a championship. If you recall, the Dynamo won their first year that they were here in the city, so I got to travel with them and create content. And that's pretty cool. You get a ring actually when the team that you work for wins a championship. So I got a nice ring to celebrate that. But with that being a new team in the city, it really was like a startup. Everyone had about 3 different jobs, so it was a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of very late nights. Because an MLS soccer team is not nearly as big as a MLB baseball team. The whole organization was probably like 40 people. So with that just came a lot of, like I said, very late nights. And it left me looking to other avenues and other teams. And the Houston Astros opportunity came up, prayed about it, submitted my application, and got that role through the grace of God. And that actually opened up a whole new journey for me. I went far beyond just design and started going into photography and videography. And just leading a team, you know, at the Dynamo, I was really a team of 2. At the Astros, I was a team of 10. And being at the Astros from an organization that was at its worst, if you remember around maybe 2007, they were pretty much the worst team in the entire Major League Baseball. Going to 2017, where they were obviously the best team in baseball and they won the World Series. So with that journey is a lot of humble beginnings. You learn how to, you know, let's just say make money and sell tickets when, you know, there's nothing really exciting happening. And then you also learn how to leverage success when you win, and everyone, you know, is calling you and answering your emails. And then about 2019, right before the second World Series, which by the way, I got a ring with that organization as well. So again, just a very big blessing to be able to have 2 pieces of jewelry to represent, you know, some success there. When I left there, I was leading a team of about 12 people. It consisted of designers, videographers, photographers, motion graphic artists, and project managers. And my role there was a creative director as well. And I just felt the need and to grow a little faster. I had never really wanted to be an entrepreneur, but the door actually opened when a few folks were offering to allow me to consult in my spare time. And so in 2019, I made the jump and became a full-time entrepreneur. That was, you know, of course, almost 5 years ago, creeping up on my anniversary here, and making that leap into the, you know, private sector or the, you know, independent sector, very difficult. And I definitely have some strategies to, you know, if anyone's thinking about going that route, or if anyone's in that route on the early stages, I'd like to share. But that's essentially where I'm at now. My company is called Major Level Creative, and we essentially do what I did for the Astros, which was photography, design, videography, and creative consulting, which is really everything involving branding at the end of the day. And if you're not familiar with that, branding is essentially what your company looks like, what it stands for, what it feels like, the colors, the logo, how it's represented online, or in person when you hand someone a business card. It's really the face of the company. And a lot of times, if you can build your brand very with a high value, you can charge a high value for what you do. So that's where we're at now. We have myself and 3 other full-time employees. So still small growing business, but so much to learn and so much to just, learn from other successful folks who have bigger businesses and bigger revenues and bigger sales goals. But at the end of the day, there's just a lot to learn about the administrative side, when it comes to savings, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to hiring people, when it comes to contracts. And at the end of the day, you still have to, hone in on your craft and really become what I call a specialist in your area. So that's a little bit about me, kind of a little bit about my journey and a little bit about where we're at and what we do.
Man, that is awesome. And if I remember correctly, do you still do some work for Lakewood?
We do. Yeah. Lakewood Church is one of our larger clients. And we do a lot of content work for them. We also do a lot of, I do personally do consulting for them. And of course, everyone knows what happened with Lakewood here in the past few days. So tragic. And I know it hits home because everyone here is probably, probably our united group here is through faith and through Grace Church. But yeah, they are one of our most, we're very proud to have them as a client. They have a level of excellence that they have that pushes us a little hard, but we're constantly creating graphics, videos. We're doing a big photo shoot next week in West Texas that will be in preparation for their Easter campaign that's coming up. And when you see that roll out, you can kind of know that Major Level's hands are involved in that. As a matter of fact, I'm running the shoot, and it's just a big content piece where we're creating videos, motion graphics, and things like that. And yeah, I failed to mention this. A lot of our clients are in the sports arena, but not all of them. We'll have clients that are in the sports and entertainment world. We have tech clients as well, like software companies. And then, like Matt was saying, a couple of faith-based clients as well, where we'll do branding or refreshing of their logos.
It's so cool. That is super cool. I mean, I love the story because I think it's a story that's similar to many of us, even though we're not, we didn't do the sports and stuff, but we started in a career. And then many of us from that career we had, it showed the love we had for certain things. And then we honed in and focused on those activities and launched a business. And some of us may still be in that career, and that's okay. It's okay to have that, forming up and firming up that side hustle and turning it into that full-on business, getting more organized. And that's what this whole group is about. No matter the stage or phase of your business, whether it's entrepreneur of one or solopreneur, or you're really grown into something like Chris David is putting together or beyond, right? Like you have a whole enterprise. So that's exactly what this call is about. So I want to ask you a question specifically about, when did you realize that you were ready to go from the side consulting to full-blown business?
I would say it happened about a year and a half out of me making the actual move. You have to be very strategic if you're working full time, and you have to plan it. It's not something that you do spur of the moment, unless you really want to have a very difficult road ahead. For me, what I decided to do is, and I think most everyone here probably on this call, if someone had to ask, what do you do in your spare time, you're probably going to say, what your business is. It's just like, I enjoy making shirts, or I enjoy taking photos, or I enjoy, writing proposals, whatever it is. So that is a lot of where my heart was. I was already, anytime I had free time, and I had a family at this time, I was doing work. I was trying to get freelance or contracts just to do, let's just call it a side hustle. It did end up taking all of my free time, like literally all of my free time, and that is pretty exhausting. But I was happy because I knew there was a market for it. There was an option to potentially go, make more money. Let's just say at the end of the day, that's what it was about, just making more money for the family. Um, but it got to the point where I felt like I could do this full time. I had a few people offer me roles that would allow me to step away and do it independently, but they weren't gonna. Let's just say it wasn't gonna pay my full salary. It was gonna pay probably like 50% of it. So what I did was I saved for about a year, and I didn't save like intensely, but I did have a goal of about somewhere around, it was around 50 grand. So that I was like, you know what, I need to save. That way, when I leave, I could have something to fall back on and pay myself a salary for at least, 6 months or more. So in addition to the side work that I knew I had relationships with, and they weren't big contracts, honestly, they were pretty small. In addition to my savings, I had that exit plan, as they call it, and I gave my employer a good heads up. I told them I was in the middle of transitioning, that I'm not sure what this year looked like, and then when that time came around that I felt it was time to make the jump, I gave them ample lead time to say, hey, I'm actually going to make the transition to an independent freelancer. How long would you like me to stay and help make that transition so you guys can be in a good spot. And I ended up staying 60 days longer, 60 days, which was the negotiating term, which, as you all know, 2 weeks is the typical, hey, I'm out of here. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I stayed for 60 days. And that was just, again, like Matt talked about earlier, like, honoring, who has taken care of me for the past 12 years. I worked at Minute Maid Park for 12 years. I mean, they really showed me every part of the business that I could have ever wanted to be involved in. So I stayed, and when I made that transition, I didn't have to make very rash decisions because I had a good chunk of money in the bank. If I remember correctly, I didn't have 50, but I had pretty close to it. I had like 40. And that was the sacrifice that my wife and I had to make for, obviously a year to prepare us for that, knowing that, a storm might come or clients might not be there. And so that really paid the difference for a while, probably for about, I would say for about 6 months. The client revenue plus the gap was pulled from savings, but I didn't use it all. And what ended up happening is I had cash, AKA capital, for the company to start with. And that's very difficult to have. Like, you do not want to start a business with $0. Like, that sucks. So you absolutely, if some of you probably know, you need cash to start a business. I mean, something as simple as buying a computer, right? Like, the Astros owned the computer that I was working on. I had to turn it in. That computer alone was $2,500. The office, that I wanted to have after about 3 months was $1,000 a month. Like, it just starts adding up. So for sure, that was for me, that was the indicator, was when I felt like all my personal time was being focused on making money in this, in my hobby or in my, trade. And then when I felt like I wasn't happy with that, I felt like I needed a little bit more that I could maximize. I could make a full-time, a life, a career doing that. I decided to wait a year and save. And honestly, that was probably one of the best things I've ever done. Again, so I didn't have to make rash decisions or, borrow a car to go to work or anything like that. Like, I had a really good plan, and it allowed me to make really good, wise decisions for at least the first 6 months.
Man, that is awesome. I mean, just the intentionality you put behind the transition. I think a lot of us, me included, if we could do some things over again, that's definitely what we'd have paid more attention to, what I would have paid more attention to with the transition. But it's never easy. And of course, hindsight's always 20/20, right? So, for you, in hindsight, what were some things you maybe would have done differently? If you can go back in time, what would you have done different with your business?
I could easily answer this. This is something that if you haven't done you should not open your doors for business. If you haven't done this, you should stop and do it soon. If you haven't done this, you honestly have not given your business a really wise chance to succeed. A business plan. It's so simple. It's the first thing that everyone tells you to do when you take an entrepreneurship class. It's write a freaking business plan. A business plan is not just a one sheeter that says, hey, here's why I'm starting a business. Here's what I'm going to sell. And here's how much it's going to cost. I mean, it's very strategic. It is goals for the first 3 years, trajectories of what you think you're going to make, just like you would say for a car or for a house. You have to think about how much cash you're going to make in the next 3 years. And, you have to have a level to measure success, so you got to know, am I doing this right? Am I, moving up or am I moving down? Do I need to go back to work? But a business plan tells you also really who you are. It lets you know exactly who your audience is. It tells you exactly who your competitors are. It tells you what type of market is your market even wanting what you're selling. Are you selling barbecue in a place that already has 4 different barbecue joints down the street? Are you doing photography for someone in a space that all your friends are doing it and selling to the same people? Like, do you need to move to another city? Like, there's just so many factors that you need to know before you start. And what happens is, as you go through for the first and second year, you need to have that KPI, and KPI is just a key performance indicator. It's a corporate term, but you should learn it. And if you don't have that KPI, you're honestly wandering through the night. You're just, hey, making money and trying to figure out if, what's next you're going to look like. I love that Tony said he knew what he made last year in this month. Like, that's great. That's of course tracking, but on the front end, you definitely want to make sure you answer, some key questions about your business. And it also just solidifies who you are when you talk to people. Exactly what that elevator pitch is. You don't want to say like, well, I'm kind of making t-shirts and it's just a side hustle for now. And, the machine's over here, or, I'm selling houses, but I'm just doing a few right now. Like, you want to know really quickly what your pitch is. And the clearer you are on that, the more confident you are on that, the more likely whoever you're talking to is going to be willing to pay you for this service. When someone pays you for, an expertise, you should sound like an expert. You don't want the carpenter to come over and be like, well, I just started, so I'm not too sure how much is this going to cost. You have to give me a couple of days. And, I've never done this before, but, you want him being like, yeah, that's cedar. And, that's at least going to run you $2,500, and I can get this done in 2 days. And I'm gonna need 50% deposit, like, oh, okay, let's get to it, man. This dude's, he or she knows just his or her stuff. So It actually helps you talk about your business more confidently because where you're going. And when you get there, you perhaps may not hit the goal that you set. If you wanted to hit $100,000 in the first fiscal year, you may not hit that, right? You may hit 75 or 50, but hey, now you have a long way to go. You have more work to do. Or if you surpass it, then that's what you want, right? Okay, this is what success looks like. We're trajecting, we're going on an upward trajectory. So between a business plan and getting your brand solidified, and that's your logo, your tagline, your website, your business card, all that stuff, who you are, your core values, what you stand for, that's extremely important too, because that's separate from your business plan. Your brand identity and your business plan are 2 different things, but your business plan, you don't even need a logo for that. Once you launch that, you definitely need to work on your branding, and branding will really help you align with other customers. I'll give you an example. If you're about, let's just say you clean homes and, you've done your numbers. And if you have a staff of 5 people and you clean 5 houses, a day times 10, whatever, you do your math, you're like, okay, got it. You still got to go sell that to someone who's willing to, maybe have multiple properties or, individual. But when at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs, you become a salesperson. Everyone does. We didn't go to school for that, right? We went to school for our craft, or we potentially learned something that we like to do and we want to sell that, but we're not necessarily salespeople. But I can tell you from experience, one of the number one ways to close a deal is to have a connection with that person further than what you're offering. So again, just because I heard, photography from Tony, and I didn't hear it. So I'm gonna use that as an example, if you don't mind. Oh, you go to Grace, I go to Grace too. Yeah, actually, one of our core principles is we actually tithe as a company, and we give 10% to whatever. It's like, oh wow, you know what? I love this guy. Like,
Yeah.
I could care if you may not be like a A+ service, and you might be a B+, but I like that we're connected through our core values. And unless you know what you go through your brand exercise, you won't really know what those core values are. The core values allow you to maybe decline business. Maybe if someone's asked you to do something, like, I'll give you a perfect example. We make websites. If we had a website come to us from, like, let's say, sexual content or anything like involving like alcohol, I don't think we'd want to touch it, because that's not where my heart is. That's not in my values. That's not in my core values. So I could easily just professionally say, hey, thank you so much for this opportunity to bid on your work, but it just this scope of work doesn't align with our company core values. But I'd be happy to recommend you to someone else. And declining business is one of the strongest things you can do as a new company, because it shows who you are. And you're not just hungry for the next $200-300. You're really wanting to make a relationship with someone. And when you can connect on something further than just that service you're offering, that's an easy win. And I just gave Faith as an example, but it could be your alma mater. It could be, what y'all do with your funds. It could be who you hire, who you want to work with. I know for us, we have a specific client profile that we want to work with. And so if it's not that client profile, that's not sports, entertainment, and technology, we actually look at it very closely and have to determine if we want to take it on as a client, because at the end of the day, that person is going to give you more business. So if you're doing work for, let's just say, again, a company that involves like alcohol, let's just say club, a bar, like a hip hop, like a true club, not just a restaurant bar. Like, all they sell is alcohol and give you a drug. That doesn't align with me. So if I take that business and I do a good job on it, hopefully they're going to recommend me to other bars, and I don't want that business. So like, you have to really know who you are, and branding and a brand audit lets you do that. So I would say from a business plan is one thing, and you can always go back and do it. If you didn't do it in the start, you can do it anytime. But a business plan and getting your brand polished up and making sure that everything's consistent and you know who you are.
That's good. That's good, man. I love that. I love all that insight. And I'm glad I'm recording this, because I know some people are going to want to rewatch this. So I got this question and insight from Miss Janet Cruz. She said she was wondering if you own, so it's amazing how you use your skills and to different types to service different companies. I love the brand storytelling. She said she started off as a reporter and loved interviewing people, but it got to the point where she couldn't balance being a single parent and being a reporter. Her background is mainly newspapers, magazine, radio, blogs, and folks which have advised me to find my niche. So do you recommend this? Do you recommend finding a niche? If so, how do you identify or choose your niche as a content creator?
Yeah, I absolutely, like, a niche is the secret sauce. And that goes back to kind of what I said earlier about knowing your core values, what you stand for. Absolutely. A niche is the sweet spot. I mean, you could be a plumber, and there's so many plumbers you can call, right? You're definitely not the one that people are going to remember, right? Because there's commercials that you can't afford that are running, and it's like, oh, I can call that number. You have to really specifically focus on what you, the owner, the founder, does really, really well, that you can speak to passionately, that you can rattle off without research, that you can communicate really well. That's a huge part of this of finding your niche. And niche can be, again, like just taking Tony for example, since he's a photographer. maybe he focuses on families, and family portraits, and through family portraits, he'll deal with people who own businesses, and they have him come in and shoot other businesses, but he's going to push family portraits. That's his thing. And that's what he personifies. And that's who he wants to connect with, because his core values or family first, God said, whatever. Oh, I'm sorry, God first, family second, but you guys get where I'm coming from. So I absolutely would make sure that you find a niche and focus on it and push it hard. And really the way you could do that is just, like I said, what you feel the most comfortable educated in. And I don't mean like academic educated. I mean, just through, experience, what you have the most experience doing in the last, 10, 20, 30 years. And what you feel really strongly that you can communicate and sell. You should be able to sell what you do really well. You should be able to talk about it passionately. So like, for instance, this example of like news, blogging, podcasts, etc. That's essentially a communications tool. It's a media platform. It's a way for people to get their message out or to find out information. So you want to make sure that whatever you decide to call your business or whatever you happen to sell, it's something that people have seen before, but they like your version of it. Like Grizzy News. I'm sure everyone knows. If you don't know Grizzy News, it's like unbelievable. She's able to she gets up late at night. She goes to all these, crazy news, I guess, stories that pop up and, at midnight, and she'll be on scene. And she's just really doing what she does really well, which is cover stories. She's kind of like a journalist, if you will. And she does it naturally. She does it literally from the couch. So whatever it is you do, you have to be able to make sure you do it naturally. Don't go into business doing something you've never done before, or that you can't really, communicate passionately. So what you just described sounds like a media empire. And that's what I think you should find somebody who's doing, that type of content and really emulate them. You don't have to necessarily copy them, but there's quite a few businesses that are doing that they're like, hey, we offer, interviews, we offer podcasts, we offer, journalistic, write-ups. And so that's, I would say what I would kind of focus on is making sure that you make that into one ecosystem and you sell that. You don't just sell like the blogs or the podcast. You sell that ecosystem. And that is what that is what you want to be able to basically capitalize on, if that helps. And that's just kind of speaking specifically on that one.
No, that's good. I like that insight. I mean, it's almost like those are all platforms for a specific topic, right? Like you can go to the radio with your, like, let's say you're a baker and you love baking, you have cookies and sweets and all. I mean, you can go to the radio with your sweets. You can write blogs about sweets. You can have a website about sweets. You can have newspaper articles, all about sweets and all those different things. Because with sweets, then you can talk about the baking needs, right? Like all the pans that you need.
Yep.
Then you can start talking about the best ovens, and then convection versus, and then there from that topic or that subtopic, then you can go to all these different platforms, and then you can create like, my top, Jeanette's top 10 whisks to buy, and here's my top list, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And that's elaborating on that ecosystem.
Yeah.
Not to go back here, but I think I felt to really point out the main point about Grizzy's Hood News. If you didn't catch what her niche is, it's hood. She's hood. And if you ever watch her news, she's totally hood. Her like pit bull is barking in the corner. She's doesn't speak like as professionally as someone on TV, but she crushes it. I mean, just go to one of her streams when she's broadcasting a story, and it's like thousands and thousands of people log on. But her niche is hood, So anyway, I would just that's really where I was going with that. So
I get you.
Yeah, no, niche is everything. If you haven't figured it out, my niche is sports.
Yeah.
So that's where my background is. That's what I worked in. That's what I speak, really well about. That's I'm passionate about. So, yeah, for sure. That is, if anyone needs help finding a niche and has a few things, that they're putting together, please hit me up afterwards. I'll gladly ask you a few questions and probably can help you figure it out.
Awesome. So I got another question here. This one's really good too. It's Angela Keys wants to know what's really the difference between your business plan and like your branding or your brand identity?
So, okay, business plan is extremely executive. It is, you have to write. It's a document, and it says specifically like what your business is, what you offer, who your customers are, what your market is, how much do you charge, what are your projections for profit, what are your trajectories for the next 3 years. I mean, it is something that you would give a bank if you were asking for $500,000. They'd be like, who the heck are you? I don't know anything about your business. Why would I give you $500,000? You have to justify who in the world you are. Like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I sell. This is what I'm going to do. This is my product. And so it's a piece of literature. It's text. It's not logos or anything like that. It's just, it is almost like reading the manual of a product you just purchased. It tells you everything about that freaking manual. It tells you who's involved in the company. Like Maria, let's say, Maria Chicas, it would say, who are the founders? Maria Chicas, what does she do? What makes her an expert? Does Maria hire, Keisha? What does Keisha do? Keisha, what is her background? If you're starting a company with a staff, the leadership is in that business plan. So again, it would be just imagine going into the bank. They will not give you money without a business plan. So you have to be prepared to know what your business is, and then branding is very, very visual. Forget letters and document. This is colors, logos, shapes. The website, the business card. All of that should flow very smoothly. Like Matt right here, he has his logo right behind him over his right shoulder. If Matt gives you a business card, I can guarantee you that logo is going to be on that business card. So those are the type of things that you really have to focus on and spend money on. It's not cheap. Like, it's just crazy. Like, unless you're selling trinkets for $5, it's just great. You have to spend money on this because it's like investing in yourself. You wouldn't go, to Colorado without a jacket, right? You need a freaking jacket. You need a good jacket. Like, you should not be going out to business without an identity. So that definitely starts with a logo, but even colors matter. Your font matters, all that. Because think about it like this. And I've had to do sales, so I can promise you I've done this before. I've had a car that wasn't attractive. And when I went to that business meeting, I knew how much I was asking for. I parked in the back. I was like, I am not parking in the front. This is not a good day for me. I had to, I'm just going to park in the back and I'm going to, sell it. Versus me getting a newer car and being very proud of my car because I worked hard for my car. And I parked right in the front and I knew that this car was going to help me close the deal. Now, I don't want to get materialistic because I'm definitely not materialistic. But when you're in sales, you have to know that matters. When you pull up in a nice car, they trust you a little bit more. Now, I don't mean to say that if you're not driving a nice car, don't start a business. All I'm saying is I'm using an analogy. If your logo looks like crap and your branding doesn't look good and your colors are all whack and it doesn't really, resonate with what you do. Like if you're in a lawn service and you have a pink logo, why? Like, what is that about? No, you should have a green, maybe a blue, maybe a brown, and same thing. If you have a salon, what would you be doing with a green logo? Green's not associated with, green's associated with money. And so when you see like investment groups or anyone that's doing financial planning, those are going to be green logos. And if you don't believe me, just look around and as you start driving, everything has, when it comes to the big enterprise, it's very strategic. So colors matter, fonts matter, and that's what branding is. That's the difference, and having that all lined up before you go out and start business helps so much. And again, you can do that later. It's not like if you didn't do it at the beginning, you're totally like not going to make it. But you do have to stop at some point and say, okay, how much is branding worth? Is it 5,000, 20,000? Okay, let's start saving for that. No one in this, I can guarantee you, no one on this call is a brand expert. Well, I take it back. Maybe you are, but you would know because the best brands spend the most money there. They know that, what, my logo looks like this and don't mess it up. Like my logo is black and white. Yeah. Don't make it purple. Don't make it green. My logo is black and white. If I print t-shirts, don't print green t-shirts, print black and white shirts because my logo is black and white. When we write a letterhead and it says, hey, here's my proposal and I'm asking you for, $25,000, use the right font because that's my font and my logo is black and white. Like that's branding. And when you have all that synced up, people trust you more. And it's going back to that analogy about the car. It's like this, he or she really has her stuff lined up. They're presentable. Their work is presentable. Their proposal's presentable. Their website is all connected. I trust them. And that's what you want.
That is so good, man. That is so good. I mean, like even just a small example, like how you referenced, my logo over here, like I'm putting it on everything because, I have a small company. It's a little upstart real estate, but at the same time, people who see real estate signs and logos often and everywhere associated with profitability and productivity. And so I'm honestly like, I take my coffee cup to almost everything. Like I had it when I was picking up the kids. Like I'm getting ready to make shirts, and I think it's with Miss Maria on here. And so I'm working on getting some shirts, a little logo, and I mean just putting it everywhere, because I need it to be an extension. And at the same time, like what you were saying, like your logo and your brand image should not really be much different from who you are off camera or off polo.
Sure.
When your brand is not on your person, then you should be consistent almost in brand and off brand. You should not be like Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde. You should be consistent because then it just becomes easier to be your business, and turn it on to some degree.
Yeah.
Can I
100%.
kind of follow up with my question? Because actually, I have 3 very small companies. And whenever I go to a branding company to help me, they won't even start on the logo and the website and all this until they get the branding document out of the way. And they're asking me the questions that sound like a business plan. So I can't even get to the logo and that part before they waste 3 months, 3 months and thousands of dollars on this. And they can't explain to me what that document is. But it sounds just like the business plan. And that's why I was asking the difference.
It's actually
It's happened to me 3 times.
Oh, wow.
What you're referring to specifically is a brand identity, or what would be called a discovery. And no offense to you, but I think what happened is the company is probably a pretty well-established company, and it sounds like they know what they're doing. They want to know who you are first before they even touch your logo. So they're going to ask you like, why did you get in business? How long you been in business? What are your hobbies? Where are you from? What do y'all sell? And then what they do with that is they craft what's called like brand standards or brand discovery. And it is actually a step, and it is frustrating because you're like, look, I know what we want. We want a car that's moving fast with a sponge, whatever. But a good company will step back and say, hey, before we do that, before we just take your money and do a transactional thing, let us find out a little bit about your business so we have inspiration, because a good designer will design with inspiration, and you cannot design if you don't have that, right? It's just like at that point you're just asking me to make you a balloon, So I do understand where they're coming from. I have done that before. As a matter of fact, we'll travel for that and do it in person. And we'll say like, hey, tell me about your company. Tell me where you went to college. Tell me, who's involved in the company, how long, why you started the company. And that's called a brand discovery. And it does feel like, for sure, like a business plan. But that part leads to a brand identity. And then that will lead to brand standards. And that's kind of the process. It's tell me who you are. Let me find out about you. Let me build you a logo. And then let me show you how this logo needs to be used, And it is a pricey process, but it doesn't have to go through all that. I mean, trust me, we've skipped, there's been times where we skip the first 2 steps and just go straight to the logo. Like, look, if you know what you want and you really, kind of, trust me to give you a good design, we'll create it for you. But we're going to probably reverse it and then tell you why we did that. Because as you guys know, if you have a logo, I'm sure most people on here do, symbolism is extremely important when it comes to logos. And they're probably trying to extrapolate like, well, Angela, tell me about this because I'd love to put a little nugget in there. Like if you're really passionate about Jesus, well, maybe I'll work in a little cross, those type of things. But a good designer is going to need a lot of good inspiration. But I could see how that process would be frustrating. But yeah, that's called a brand discovery.
You're right. It's a brand identity, but you're the first one that could actually explain it to me because I actually ended up getting my money back, almost $5,000, because they couldn't explain to me what they were doing, and I didn't understand it until you just explained it to me. So thank you.
That's good.
You may
No,
need to
no
call up
worries.
Chris David here to get it done. He's good, man. I mean, so he's probably the guy that you need. Well, speaking on that whole brand and logo and stuff, I had Jace here. Being a huge Astros fan, he actually wants some maybe a little bit of history and context. What was the deliberation process that went into changing the Astros logo? Were you part of that?
Yeah, it was. As a matter of fact, I got a chance to design pieces of it. And I can tell you which pieces I designed. Yeah, that's an easy question. First of all, teams don't change their logos unless they have a new owner or a new stadium. That's basically the bottom line. In 2013, the Astros got a new owner. It was Jim Crane. And he knew that in order to revitalize the team, it was losing, if you remember, it was literally the worst team in baseball.
Yeah.
He knew that in order to revitalize the team, they needed a new identity. Going back to what we were talking about, Angela, it needed a new identity so people can connect with. What better identity than to go to the success of the former, Astros logo, the Astrodome. So because Jim Crane bought the team, he wanted to make his mark. He needed to revitalize the team. We went through a new logo process. And as you guys know, it stayed. The team stayed at Minute Maid Park. It didn't leave from there. But if you didn't know, there was a really good chance that the Astros were going to change their name, and that was an actual possibility as well. Like when you take on a new company, if you buy it, if you're involved in like big corporate business, a lot of time when there's a merger or there's a big acquisition, the company changes their name. And so anyway, they decided to keep their name because Houston was going to riot if they changed it. And you can look that up. He literally threw it out there, and everyone crucified him. But when we decided to change it, we decided to go with our history, which is very common, which was the Astrodome and the rainbow uniform. And so the Star H was, revitalized, but the inspiration came from, if you're familiar with San Jacinto Monument,
Yeah.
on the top of that monument, there's a star. I think it's like a 7-point star or something like that.
Yeah.
It basically has a star and a star.
Yes.
And so it has bevels. And so we gave the H bevels. And that's where my touch of design was in. I came up with that concept of giving it bevels.
Woo.
We gave it bevels and the bevels stayed. But yeah, it was probably one of the coolest but most difficult times in my life because it is a very stressful process. You have to change everything. You have to remember Minute Maid Park had been around for almost 13 years at that point, and there were logos everywhere. There were logos, etched in the wood, etched in the windows, and we had to replace everything within like about 6 months. So it was extremely costly. But everything that let me put it to you this way, everything that gets replaced has to get designed. And with a team of like at 2 at that point, it was very, very difficult. But yeah, no, I'm very proud of it. And it was I learned a lot, and I got to work with some really talented people because there were a couple companies that we hired to help us with it.
That is so cool. That is super cool, man. I didn't even know that. It gave me some Astros design history insight on that one. And I'm sure the people on the call are just happy to have some of that context for that. So, well, we're coming into the last few minutes, and so as we part here, Chris David, I want you to share maybe some inspiration, inspo, something to get these guys encouraged about continuing on their business journeys. Do you have anything before we, close out in prayer?
Yeah. If I didn't get a chance to answer your question, Matt, you can give my email address, and
Okay. I'll put it in right now.
I'm happy to respond. It may be it may be the 3 B's, which is be bright, be brief, and bounce or something like that. It's like really quick, but I'll definitely answer your question if there's anything that you're curious about what I talked about. But yeah, the only thing I would say is I know for sure one of the things that everyone is focused on is like how to drive more business and how to create more clients. The number one thing that I would say, a couple things that I would leave with you is the number one thing is I would absolutely always look at going with a client um, that believes in you, that trusts in you, and that you can upsell versus going and finding like a brand new client. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a client that you've done really well with, and they're very happy with you. It's so much easier to ask them for a referral than to go just find a brand new client that's never heard of you. All you have to simply do is just be like, hey, you know what? I know we've been working together for a couple of years, or we've done photo shoots. This is like the third time I shoot you guys. Is there another family or a business that you recommend, or that you would recommend, introduce me to? If you do good work, that is a no-brainer. It is. They feel pride in providing a solution for someone else. It was like, oh, of course, yeah. Let me introduce you to Tom. Tom's my brother-in-law. He works for Shell, and they do corporate headshots. They're always looking for somebody. You're like, wow. Now, the flip side to that is the second thing I would leave you with. Your reputation is everything. So you have to treat each client like your reputation's on the line, and because they are the number one. That is probably the number one way you'll keep business. You'll get business is to keep it. You don't want to lose business, and you don't want your reputation to be out there. And everyone knows that if you're spending a large amount of money, you're probably going to call someone for advice, right? Like, hey, I saw he worked with you before. Were you happy with it? You don't want them to say like, well, Tony was awesome, but he was really difficult to work with. That's one of the number one reasons why we get clients. No offense, Tony. I'm sure you're awesome to work with, but like that's one of the number one way we get work is that people are unhappy with the experience on how their logo was designed. Or like Angela just said, like, I didn't even know what I was paying for. They couldn't explain it to me. Like that is not good. So the number two thing that I would say is just make sure you treat every customer like they're your number one client and they have a pleasurable time doing business with you. When you ask them for money, you do it with a smile. When they don't pay you, you do it with a smile. When you have to track them down, do it with a smile. After they close their, maybe you wrap up business with them, do it with a smile. Like you just want that exchange to be memorable to where if they're like, hey, Maria does shirts and man, you know what? They're good shirts, but man, she never sent me an invoice. She overcharged me a little bit. And she was kind of rude, like no offense. I know that's not you, but someone who has money, they just say, you know what, I'll just never mind, forget that. Like I'll go, there's other t-shirt companies, right? But if it's the opposite, it's like, oh my God, her stuff is on point. She's so sweet. And she invoiced me really quick. It was really, quick and their delivery was on time, like not late. That's going to be recommended. And that has been the secret sauce for us is just do a really good freaking job. Make sure you follow up with them. And when you're ready, when you feel like confident enough, just ask them to refer you to somebody that's, maybe a larger piece of business. Like, hey, I know we're doing great work for you, but we're looking for bigger business. Like, is there someone, that you recommend that might have a bigger company? As long as you're doing the first part, they're going to absolutely do that. And if you're not doing the first part, they're going to tell you, well, let me think about it. But I can tell you most of our clients will quickly just, yeah, you know what, let me connect you with someone right now. Here, email Matt. Matt is like a great connection and boom. So those are the only two things I would say, because I know for everyone, there are months where it's like, okay, where's that next client going to come from? Or we hired someone, we need to make a little more. Or, you know what, we want to save and get our own location or studio. Those are the type of things that you can leverage.
Man, that was so good. Guys, can we get an applause here or some chat, some awesome stuff here in the chat box or something? Come on, we got to let this guy know it's virtual. So, we got to throw our emoji.
I appreciate that. No, thank you so much. And if you see me around Grace, you'll see me running around with my wife and 2 kids, but you can stop me anytime. And my emails are, always open. I like I said, for me to help someone, I believe that like it's going to come back to you. And I've been there as well. Like, I can't tell you how many times I wish someone would have just told me like how to make a really good contract. Would have saved me so much heartbreak, if I could have just learned that. But, over time I learned, and it's not something that I would want someone to go through. So if there's anything that I could, give you a bit of advice on, how to save money or, how to run your finances or, how to write contracts, by any means, I'm here.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that, Chris, David, man. Thanks for being such a friend, man. Love you, brother. And I'm going to close this out in prayer. And here we go. Lord, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for the insight that Chris David shared with us. I pray what you had for us lands on our hearts. Allow us to go forth and do something with it. Lord, our faith without works is dead. And so I pray that right now in faith, we take what we have learned, what was impressed upon each of our hearts individually, we take and we apply in our businesses, and that we go out and we continue to be leaders and we continue to be examples in the marketplace, again, to grow the kingdom and continue to pour into the kingdom by being lights in our businesses, by being lights to those we service, or by taking our resources and pouring it to the advancement of the kingdom. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Hey,
Man.
Matt. First of all,
Man.
great prayer, man. But I do want to say one more thing that I should have mentioned. It's probably one of the easiest ways that I started to think about this. Don't be afraid, even at the level that you're at, to do some work for free that you feel is important. I think one of the best ways you can get your product out is to give people a sample, right? Like, how many times do you walk through HEB and they give you the sausage and you're like, okay, put it in my cart, right? Like, I tasted it, I love it. Like, if you have a chance to do t-shirts for someone, for like a worthy cause, do it. If you have a chance to take photos of someone that's never had a family portrait, and do it. If you have a chance to offer them a service that you offer, and they just, you're not going to make money on it, it's okay, do it. Just do it really well. And find an opportunity to gather people and to just exhibit it. If you detail cars, you should probably have a little mini car show, and be like, all these cars were detailed by, Matt Reyes Detail. If you do shirts, have a little expo, have the girls over, have a party and show them all the shirts, have everyone make a shirt. And, you might look at it as like, well, I just spent $500 on tonight. Like, that's money out of my pocket. That's marketing. Like, what I just told you is marketing. You have to spend money on yourself if you expect people to be interested in your product. So don't be afraid to do that work, whether it's free or you're negative, because that is your marketing. It's extremely hard to run those social ads that are all over, YouTube. Those are very costly. But in order to, gather a few friends and showcase your product, that's an easy way to send everyone home happy with, your product in their hand or your service, and just say, hey, you know what? This is what we do, and happy to showcase it. So it's one thing that I wanted to mention, Matt, because I failed to mention it, and it's something that we do pretty often. We probably do it about 4 times a year. We'll do a project and we will lose money, but it's not because we're trying to lose money. It's because it's marketing. It's worthy for us. So just wanted to mention that. I'm sorry I took a little bit more than
No, that's good, man. Great insight. No, and you're right. We should consider it marketing, and then, hey, any resources that we use, tax deductible, right? There we go.
That's true. 100%.
So awesome, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. I will have this posted by the end of the week if you want to rewatch it. So we'll go out in an email. And yeah, and if you're not getting the emails, then send me an email to broker@marathon.realty. I'll put it in here, broker@marathon.realty. So if you're not getting the emails from the church website for the videos, I'll send them out again. They're on my YouTube page anyway. But if you don't have that link again, I'll send it out. So I look forward to seeing y'all next time. We'll have some more insight, and then some more speakers lined up for the future. Have a blessed one, guys. And we'll see y'all soon.
Appreciate it. God bless you guys. Appreciate it. Everyone have a good night. See you, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, brother.